Just when we thought this season couldn't get any crazier, there's another twist in the story. The Bombers show some fight, the Giants storm into the top four, and are Sydney and Carlton cooked? This is Access All Areas thanks to Crypto.com. Great to have your company on this Monday. Damian Barrett is here, Matthew Lloyd has gone away, and Kate McCarthy has come to play. Kate, welcome to you.
Thank you very much. I know Lloydie will be very disappointed. He's not here after a brilliant Bombers win. But yes, here to chew into everything that happened over the weekend, and what a huge weekend of footy it was. I don't even know where to start.
Now, we've managed him out, or he's managed himself out. Now,
Yes.
one of the two. Got him right for the finals. But this is the most crazy, most open season of the AFL era.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? So we might as well start with Lloydie's Bombers, because he put the acid on them during the week and they responded with a 1-point victory against Fremantle. And Damo, they're half a win out of the top 8. Their season still has a pulse.
It does, and it had a pulse net on the back of the Essendon Edge, which they talked about pre-season, had for the first part of the season, then lost a lot of in the past 8 weeks. But it was back yesterday, and look at the desperation as we see now. These are all moments in the final quarter. They had to kick a goal to get in front. They then had to withstand that Jai Amos goal that came late, and then no coincidence, no surprise that two key players, Zach Merritt over to Sam Durham, sealed the result for them from that kick, just missing goal, but all he did to do was score, Kate.
Yeah, and when we talk about the Essendon Edge, it's those first few clips that we showed that will come up in the review. It's those things that Brad Scott will pride the team on. That's what got them over the line in the end, and how good was also Sam Draper in the last quarter. So many of those big contested grabs.
And that guy on screen too, Jai Caldwell, was as good as any player on the ground in the context of it. So the Edge is back, Nat, for at least one match anyway, and that's the key now, isn't it?
Yes, it is the key. They've still got 3 games to go. We'll get to that in just a moment, but their skipper, Zach Merritt, he was immense. You saw that clearance, that last clearance to get that winning behind, but this was the skipper after the game.
It's been pretty difficult 3 weeks. I think the way we've been playing has been pretty ordinary. And to be honest, we just wanted to show up and earn a bit of respect back. Not only to the fans and the competition, but just amongst ourselves, to be honest. If you guys put their head up during the week and everyone up to standard, and just to get a gritty win like that, it's massive to get our season back on track.
It was the response they needed, Damo. Maybe they get their season back on track. This is what is ahead of them. Can they still make finals?
I doubt it. I just don't see them winning all of those 3 matches. I mean, a massive chance this week. Obviously, you'd expect the Swans to have regrouped to a point when they get them in the second last game. But look, the respect being back is great, and you can see the relief in Zach Merritt there post-match. But it has to be shown in those remaining 3 matches. We can't just have an ad hoc or a spasmodic return to it. It has to be now the regular, the norm.
And it comes back to that question, can we trust the Bombers? What about Fremantle? 6, they dropped down the ladder a little bit. Their coach, Justin Longmuir, said after the game they weren't tough enough. He put the heat on the midfield. Do we have any concerns about them?
Well, they've just missed a major opportunity. Yeah. They could have finished top 2, maybe even top 1, had they got through that yesterday. Now, they did everything but win the game of footy. It was there to win. It's going to take some recovering from that actually lost opportunity aspect of it, Nat. So, look, I'm not worried about the MCG component playing finals there, but they may not have had to have come back to that ground until the last game of the year in a grand final had they managed to win yesterday.
Well, we had some thrillers on Sunday. It was a magnificent day of football, and the Giant Tsunami overpowered Hawthorn in Canberra. They were 28 points down early in the final term, and Kate McCarthy, how did they come back?
Well, sorry to take you through this again, Nat, but the way that they did it is we didn't see the tsunami going until late in the 4th term, and once they finally got that handball received game going, as we see through here, used the ball through the corridor and then changed direction out. They made Hawthorn defend the entire ground for the first time and started to have some defensive lapses like that one, no one picking up Darcy Jones, but just this, the run and gun, running in numbers, not worrying about what was going on behind the footy and getting those handball numbers forward. And then this, the roll and go, getting it in, and their small forwards, Toby Green and also Brent Daniels, were elite in the last term, but little defensive lapses like this one as well. So you got Frost taking care of Hogan. He wants Weddle to come over the top there and get the fist in, so that's a rush behind. That needs to be killed, that ball. That turns into a goal to Jesse Hogan. Then again, making the ground as big as they possibly can. But I think both teams really went away from how they'd played in the 3 quarters leading up to this. It was a little bit similar to what we saw Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. They tried to control the ball a little bit too much, and then GWS just tried to run and gun and get the ball moving as quickly as possible. That was a free kick. Brent Daniels goes back and kicks that from outside 50. And then this is the last goal of the game, the one that sealed it for them. Got the run and gun going again, but this composure from Toby Green here. He sees that there's a +2 in defence. Everything in your mind as a player is telling you to go quickly here. You need a goal late. He slows down. Everyone on the Giants knows that this is going to Jesse Hogan. What does it do? It gives the Smalls the chance, Tom Green and the like, to get to the feet of Hogan and kick the ball through for the match-winning goal. So the most important thing in those moments is being predictable to your teammates, and that's exactly what the Giants were yesterday afternoon.
Kate, you spoke about Brent Daniels as well, but that move into the midfield, Damo, was excellent, wasn't it?
It was match-winning, wasn't it? I mean, the 12 disposals he got in that final term, he arguably owed them because he'd missed a couple of set shots, but it was that sort of game. But gee, he stepped up when he needed to, Nat, and he just was able to get the ball to Toby Green. He had a really good game, Toby Green, toe-tooted in Tom Green, and Jesse Hogan set him up early and then kicked the 5 to go to the lead in the Coleman medal late. But this is a crucial goal that he kicked himself, Brent Daniels. So 5 wins in a row now, Kate. It's as good a streak as we've got outside of what Brisbane Lions is doing, and they're hitting the form at the right time of the year.
Yeah, and what all coaches and teams say at this time of year is you've got to win. You just got to find a way to win. They found a way to win yesterday, but I think Adam Kingsley will reflect on that and realise that early in the game, if they actually play their way, they can beat anyone. But they didn't. We didn't see the tsunami until the 4th term when they needed to throw something on the table, and it got the win and ultimately made Hawthorn defend them a lot more than they had been. And if they do that from the start, I think teams are going to find them really hard to stop.
Well, they're into the top 4 now. The Hawks, though, still on the outer, on just outside the top 8. I think really that loss and the loss to Port Adelaide are going to cost them a spot in finals. It sets up a huge game on Sunday week between Hawthorn and Carlton at the MCG. So looking forward to that one. But the Sydney Swans, they are the big story of the weekend. A 112-point loss to Port Adelaide. It is the biggest loss in John Longmire's 13 years as coach. And they've now lost 5 of their last 6, Damo.
Yeah. Look, as you say, Nat, they are the media story out of the round. The football story was the team that beat them, Port Adelaide, because they've got their own credentials going. But just looking at that, it was only 3 weeks ago that they, I reckon, played the best game we've seen this year in the home and away season against Brisbane Lions, but lost it. Now, they lost Rampy in it, they lost Papley in it. That has changed things.
Yes.
It's also changed mindset to the point where John Longmire, and let's take a listen to what John Longmire did say post-match, because he does not talk this way about his team ever.
First of all, it's completely and utterly unacceptable. It's just not up to standard, and we've been in every game this year until last week, and we dropped away last week, and today just didn't seem like it had a baseline to it at all in any area, and we just didn't come to compete.
Damo, I think we've said this a couple of times on this show, but he doesn't look like he has the answers. I mean, they've had slow first quarters for the entire season. They haven't been able to rectify that. Are the Swans cooked?
Look, you look at the ladder, they're still in front and they've got a 2-point buffer. The reality of it, though, is that they are cooked in that contextual sense now. Their magic's gone. They're exposed, I think, themselves to the remainder of the competition. And you just got to throw out the ladder right now when you assess them, don't you, Katie? You cannot look at this team as being ladder leading at this point. They are amongst the mix, maybe down as low as 8th, 9th and 10th. Yeah,
and their ability to also, I think, earn themselves the luxury of being 14-6. But when you're 14-6 going into finals after a loss like that, reminded me of a lot of their grand final loss, which they then had the entire off-season to overcome. But this, they have to regroup and go again in a week. But just having a look at some of the performances from the Swans last weekend, just this here. So we know Port Adelaide, they're the number one team in the competition for using the corridor. Why are the Swans all protecting boundary here? Aliir, a magnificent kick through the middle. They've got 4 players out through the corridor. They would have prepared all week to defend the corridor, and they haven't done it straight away.
And they're person on the tail end of that there was Asada Radaglia. Now, he's had to go forward with Marshall's absence. I think there's a big decision to be made now. Does Marshall come back in? And I think it's a valid conversation to be had because they look better without him, as unfortunate as that sounds for Todd Marshall. But we've got to give credit to this team that won this game because they were in all sorts 6 weeks ago. Their fans pathetically were booing Ken Hinkley, and same fans now are starting to think premierships.
And this one here, a stoppage inside 50. They're set up beautifully, the Swans, so they've got the +2. That's what you want. You want to generate at least a +1. Have a look where the spare defenders end up. So Willem Drew brings that back to the top of the square. It's still a one-on-one. No one has followed the track of that ball to come across and help defend. Blakey looks around and says, I've locked him down. Can someone help me out? And this here just shows they're not on the same page defensively. We've got McCartan flooding back to the goal square. Mills looking around, asking him to come up and press. He even says, come up, I need you to help me out there. So defensively, without Dane Rampy, they look in all sorts. This is the first centre bounce of the second quarter. You'd think they'd probably go off and get a bit of a spray at quarter time for what they've delivered. Look at Darcy Byrne-Jones here. He runs past 3 Swans players, one of them, Isaac Heaney, who is arguably in contention for the Brownlow. He doesn't want to defend him. He doesn't want to run back with him and defend. So they're little concerns, but the way that Port just played one-on-one and completely exposed them, that's how they sort of won this game. And I think Ross Lyon's given teams the blueprint, how they did it against St Kilda and the Swans. That's given the coaches the blueprint on how to beat Sydney Swans, and they haven't got somewhere else to go.
Port Adelaide, third on the ladder. Do you see them as a serious top 4 contender?
Well, I do, Nat, because they've been able to, like a few clubs this year, experiencing adversity, but they've responded. I mean, Sydney's yet to prove it can respond to it. Port has. Now, we've seen it happen before. We've seen them go out in straight sets. We've seen them lose finals, and that's been the big problem for them. But all that you can do in this open season is give yourselves a chance, and right now, to this point, with 3 matches remaining, they've done that.
So the Swans are on the slide, as too are Carlton, because they have lost 4 of their last 5. The only win coming against North Melbourne in that patch. They're 8th on the ladder. It was a nail-biter, this game. It was actually one of the best games of the season. Collingwood led by 32 points early in the 4th term. And Kate, they came from the clouds, the Blues, and kicked the last 5 goals of the game.
They did. They rolled up the sleeves and started to win the contest, which is what we've been accustomed to seeing from them all season. And just, it was really blow for blow in that 4th term, and Carlton just couldn't quite get the chocolates in the end. But I mean, McGovern, he'd love his time again to have another set shot. But
he just didn't give it a chance, did he? I mean, it was a courageous mark, as we can see here, and he's done this once before in his life against this club for another team that got the result. This didn't, and it's part of the rehash. I mean, he wasn't able to stand up in that moment. That man on screen, 400th game of football, and most crucially, performed within it. I mean, if he wasn't best on ground, he was in the best 3, wasn't he?
So composed, isn't he? And like we've seen that throughout his career, but in moments, clutch moments in that game, he still had that composure.
And if he wasn't best on ground, it may have been this man, Paddy Cripps, who I think just continues to get Brownlow medal votes, and he was so good, particularly in the second half. This is a third quarter goal. That was his 1 goal for the game, but look at the numbers attached to the performance.
Are they too reliant?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're not coming with him. I mean, Sam Walsh is going okay, but not to the point he was late last season, and obviously Chera has got another hamstring problem. There is an issue there, but they're not coming with him. No, they're not. And you've already mentioned, Kate, too, regularly over the course of the season, that the non-functioning at times at key moments of the 2 key forwards.
Yeah, they've just been, their connection between mid-forward has been a little bit off, but I'm with you. I think the reliance on Paddy Cripps is, they're just so heavily reliant on him to be the one that breaks away from stoppage. They need another player in there that can be that real 1-2 punch with him. I know Walsh accumulates a lot. He doesn't damage with his possessions like Paddy Cripps or like other midfielders do in the comp. I like Elijah Hollands in there. I want them to give him more time through the midfield so that him and Cripps can form a little bit of a combination and run out of the stoppage, not just get handballs out of the stoppage and get more metres gained forward.
Let's talk about those Brisbane Lions, because the hot streak continues. Their latest victim is St Kilda. It's 9 wins on the trot now, and they are sitting in 2nd position. And Kate, it was good to see, finally, I think, former #1 draft pick in Cam Rayner. He's just hitting his straps. He's becoming a little bit more consistent, and it's the right time of year.
That's exactly the word, Nat, consistent. He's been able to now put together 4 or 5 really good weeks of football. We've seen him float in and out of games previously, or have a really good game and then drop off for a few weeks, but it really looks like he's found his consistency. He said post-match he's really aware of what his role is, so he knows that he's going to spend a bit of time forward and he's going to be injected into the midfield, and he's the player that's sort of changing things at the moment for them. His burst away from stoppage is exactly what we're referring to when we talk about Carlton.
Damo, we go back 10 weeks ago, and this club was on its knees.
It was a mess.
We didn't know if they were going to make finals or not. This is where they were at the halfway mark, and they're the premiership favourites with the betting companies at the moment. Where do you see them?
Oh, they're the clear favourite, Nat, in my eyes too. I mean, they're doing what traditionally has been done in recent times, hitting the finals hard with form, and that's what they've done. And they weathered that storm early. They found ways. They got through some injuries, and the man we just spoke about, Cameron, has got 25 goals for the year now, kicking those goals at key times as well. That's what they're doing. Danaher's had a good season too.
Kate, can they steal the minor premiership from the Swans?
Well, as a Lions fan, I'm going to have to say yes.
I thought you would.
I think they're tracking better now than they were at this time last year, and we all know how last year ended for them. So I think they're really hitting their straps when they need to. There's a few teams that are hitting a speed bump at the moment, and there's a few, which we've already talked about and will continue to, that are hitting their form right now, which is when you want to be.
So Geelong notched up their 13th win. It was in dramatic style. They survived a scare from the Crows, but our Crypto.com bold play has to go to Jeremy Cameron. And Kate, he was able to work through a bit of a shaky start to the game and finish with absolute class.
Yes, he was. And the first couple of snaps on his right were left a little bit to be desired.
Yes.
Beautiful kick from Brad Close here, but just watch him here. He thinks about, on the right. Nah, I'm going to step back on the left and make sure a sure thing of this one. But look at this. This is the last play of the game. And I think Sean Manners just sort of put this to a dangerous spot. The only player on that ground that put his name on the footy was Jeremy Cameron. He came from about 50 metres back.
Well, you can see, if you're not aware of what happened here, the score and what needed to be done at that point in time. And he was there when it counted. And he kicked 6 for the game. Again, I think he's been better in a contributing sense once Tom Hawkins went down. And again, there's a problem in a good way that may have to be dealt with if he's fit to play again. Because I keep saying this is a season that is there to be won. And Geelong, while they seem off the very best, are giving themselves a chance yet again.
You can just see this really, really awkward situation arising where Tom Hawkins is back for round 1 of finals and their forward line looks better without him.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the champion who has been a champion of our game. It just becomes so difficult for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Hey, you've got Ollie Dempsey ahead, haven't you, in the Rising Star race now? The eligibility, only he and George Wardler, we think, are the 2 front runners. But you love what he's doing off the ball.
I just love wingers in general because they don't get enough praise from people like us in the media. So I think it's time to highlight what wingers have to do on and off the ball. So he's just tracked all the way back to the goal square. I know this ends in a stoppage, but he's the perfect protection on the goal line if anything comes out. Then he works all the way forward. This would have been a goal in the goal square if not for a fantastic fist from Mark Keane from the Crows. Then late in the game, just look how elusive he is. Left and right, impossible to tackle, gets this out for a direct score involvement. And then this goal to Lawson Humphries was a direct involvement from him again. Just never gives up on the footy, gets it back. Look at this composure here. He looks forward, he wants to kick it. Notices he draws the player, and in a split second, that's out to Lawson Humphries. So I love him. I think he should be the rising star for his impact on the game and also his impact without the ball.
I'm with you. Absolutely love him and those pink boots. It is time now, though, for Quick Hands. Kate, first one to you. What is your biggest concern for the Gold Coast Suns?
My biggest concern is this. They're ranked number 2 for inside 50s and number 18 for scores per inside 50. That's mids, that's forwards. The connection is off. Damo, what about you? So should Melbourne look to Tex Walker to fix their forward line issues?
Yeah, well, someone like him, and I'd say yes specifically to Tex. They're a mess in their forward line. They've got a few issues to wade through. They're not going to be playing finals. They need a proper forward, and I reckon there's enough footy left in him to be that person. He wants to go on again. It may not be at the Crows. Nat, Zane Duursma, has he taken Mark of the Year? I've still got Jamie Elliott. I know you've got Bobby Hill until this moment, but is Zane Duursma the new
Show
leader?
him the money. That $50,000 is Zane Duursma's. I know Jamie Elliott's and Zach Day the occasion, but he got so high in that mark, and I think he rode the shoulders of Noah Bolter and Zane Duursma for sure. Tick. Kate, with the number 1 draft pick in reach, do Richmond fully commit to the rebuild?
I think they need to now. I think they're going to have such a good draft hand. I think they need to offload the players that are looking to go. Baker, Rioli, get what they can for them and just all chips in, use it as trade bait, use it to get other players in if they want to, but they're going to have a good draft hand now. Next one, sorry. Damo, is it the year that Bont wins the Brownlow?
I really hope it is. I mean, you know I love him, Nat. And he should have won 2 already. He should have won in 2021. No disrespect to Ollie Wines and no disrespect last year to Lachie Neale, but he should have won both of those Brownlows and he will this year, yes. 2024 comes up. Hey, Nat, you're a good hater when Hawthorn people leave Hawthorn. So I ask you this, Buddy or Elbow, who would you rather sit next to?
Well, look, I know this is going to surprise some people, but Albo got most of the screen time there. Like, Buddy was just incognito. He barely got any screen time, any recognition. So maybe just a little chat without. Who am I kidding? Of course it's Buddy. That was ridiculous.
Getting political there too.
Crypto.com tipping leaderboard. Kate's doing her own thing, but and so's Damo because he's just so far ahead of the pack. You're just going to win. I don't know why we have to show this every week.
No, I think I'm going like Sydney at the moment, so I could be falling
over the line.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we have time for on Access All Areas. It's been great having you in, Kate. Thank you so much. We'll have Lloydie back next Monday. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Join me, Cal Toomey,
and me, Riley Beveridge,
every Wednesday on Gettable, the definitive source of everything you need to know for player movement, trade, free agency, draft and contracts.
Watch Gettable every Wednesday or catch it as a podcast wherever you listen.